Thank you for coming. Now, first of all, let me misquote Shakespeare's Julius Caesar. Some men are born to leadership, some men aspire to leadership, and some men have leadership thrust upon them. And you can guess which category I come into. I have very much had leadership thrust upon me. We all know what's happened in the last couple of years and months, and I stood up to this role back in about the 19th of January when I volunteered to be UKIP's interim leader because I could not see an alternative. We all know what happened. I'm not going to go over what did happen, but the previous leader's position became untenable. All of those that had supported him loyally were no longer able to do so, and I didn't see any solution except to volunteer for this post. And I'm being perfectly sincere when I say I have no leadership ambitions. I'd be quite happy to be part of somebody else's team, as indeed I have been for the last couple of years as the Brexit spokesman, but that wasn't possible. So I've had to step up and do what needed to be done. Just to very briefly say something about what I inherited when I stepped in. I knew the situation was bad. I didn't know quite how bad until I took the train down to Newton Abbot the week after, or a few days after, when I found out that we were about to go into the red, we were about to become insolvent, and the very future of the party was at risk. We could have quite easily had to close up shop, because if you trade while you're insolvent, you're breaking the law, and you had no choice but to go into insolvency. And that would have meant the end of the party. It could have meant the end of the party. So I took immediate action. Well, the first thing I did, which gave me a great deal of pleasure, was to ditch Lenny the lion. Why on earth, having built up a brand over 20 years, would you change that brand, especially when you were about to go into a local election campaign? Well, I'll say it, I've said it before and I'll say it again. The more I look at what went on over the last few months, I can't decide whether it was total incompetence or sabotage. Whichever what it was, and maybe an element of both, it took us to a very dangerous place. So the first thing I decided that we had to do was to have a fundraising campaign and a recruitment campaign. Well, I'm very pleased to tell you that the fundraising campaign, I'm not going to give you any figures at the moment. I'm going to wait for another few days or a week before I do that until all the checks have been counted and all the money's been banked. But we are now in the black. We are not going to go insolvent. And the second big problem, of course, which landed on my desk last Monday, was the court order to pay £175,000 in the libel action that you all know about, I'm sure. Well, I can tell you that we're going to pay it. We've got until the 3rd of April to pay it, which is Tuesday week, and I am assured by the people who are helping me raise the money for that we will pay it. It's not a good thing, but we don't have any choice. I'm not going to comment on the legal case for obvious reasons, but we have to pay it, we will pay it, and we will move on. And that has been an incredible achievement to be able to do that, and I haven't done it all on my own. When I stepped up to this, I told people I can't do this on my own, I've got to have help. Mike Hookham stepped forward as the deputy leader to help me, Margot Parker as the deputy chairman, and of course we had to find a new chairman very quickly, and that was in the form of Tony McIntyre, who I don't think quite understood what he was getting into, but I didn't tell him too much before I recruited him. But I said to Tony, Tony, it may not feel like it now. I said, but when we've got over these difficulties and we've saved the party, you are going to be a hero. So I think that's keeping him going at the moment. He's doing a terrific job. And about a week and a bit ago, we were also able to recruit Sebastian Fairweather as the treasurer. And Sebastian has got a formidable CV. He's also the treasurer of an Oxford college and a trustee of an Oxford trust, which was responsible for tens of millions of pounds. So he is just the kind of person that we need in control of our finances. Under my leadership, whether it's interim or whether it goes on longer, we are going to put this party on a sound financial footing. and we are going to run it according to principles and sound practices. I think you can read into that whatever you like, but that's the way that we're going to go forward. I want to see a position where we can fund the party out of the membership dues, and then the money that we raise from other places we can use for specific projects, like the next by-election, wherever it's going to be, like the next election campaign, whatever that's going to be, local elections. I think we've got even more local elections next year. And these are the kind of things that I want to do. And I found the Patrons Club had been abandoned. Everything has been kind of left to go to rack and ruin. Well, we're reconstituting that, and someone who's helping me with that is another person that who's volunteered to help, which is Liz Phillips. Some of you may know Liz Phillips. She is a lady who I'm sure she won't mind if I say is 70, has got incredible energy. She knows the party inside out. She stepped forward to be my personal assistant and help me with my daily avalanche of emails from everybody, and also helping me organise things like the Patrons Club. And Peter Jewell, of course, also has a hand in that at the moment. So we are moving things forward. And of course, I'm trying to do a great many things all at the same time, so you'll excuse me if I can't reply to all your emails instantly, and I can't manage to take up all the causes that you're trying to promote. But we are getting there step by step. First thing we have to do is to keep the money rolling in, because although we're in the black, we still need money, because I actually inherited nothing, except one thing, which is 8 members of staff down at Newton Abbot, who are absolutely terrific. They're working today overtime to open the envelopes and count the money and bank the money. And the morale has lifted there incredibly. I mean, we wouldn't have a party without these people to actually do the donkey work. So I'd really like to say thank you to them and send them your thanks for the terrific job that they've actually been doing. We need money, but one important thing we need now at the moment is candidates for the local elections, because the other thing that I inherited was a local election campaign that didn't exist. I couldn't believe it when I walked in and found out we've got a local election. There's supposed to have been a committee looking at that since last year. Since we should have started planning all this in October, and there was nothing. So I've tried to cobble that together very quickly with a leaflet. We've had somebody in London that's done an even better leaflet than I have. That's difficult to believe, isn't it? But it's true. And he's actually done this website, this portal, where you can go in, you can select the bits that you want from policies, put it into your leaflet, put your personal name and details in, get that printed. A chap called Richard Brain. That's, I hope, will be available soon for people to use. But we must have candidates. If we go into this election with 100 candidates and we get slaughtered, it'll be a disaster. If we can raise more than 740 candidates, we get a TV broadcast, and then we can tell people that we're back on the battlefield, we're back in the fight, and people will vote for us. I can't tell you how good or bad it's going to be, I don't know, but we have to put up the best possible fight that we can and show the people of this country that UKIP is back in action. Now the problem, the big challenge that I face is to find the money. In a way, that's the easier of the two problems. It's to build UKIP's credibility and to rebuild us as an electoral force in this country, because so much damage has been done to our reputation internally by the last leader that we had. And I'm not going to criticise any others, because I think Paul Nuttall did the best job that he could. He was absolutely taken apart and lied about by the mainstream media. It had a very, very detrimental effect on Paul, because it was meant to. They are vicious. They hate UKIP because of what we stand for. The mainstream media will do all of they can to drag us down. The question that they've been asking me recently is, what is the relevance of UKIP? Why is UKIP still needed? We're still needed now for the same reason that we were created 26, 25 years ago, is because there was a political vacuum to fill, and we stood up and filled it. And that vacuum is still there. You have Brexit is not delivered. If you read, 4 copies of my little book there for anybody that wants to nab them up and give a donation to the local branch here. I said that it would be betrayed. It is being betrayed. They will do everything they can to either make it not happen and reverse it, or to end up with a withdrawal agreement where we leave in name but not in reality. And what came out yesterday, I haven't got my emails access here with me, but I got rung by the press officer yesterday. The latest proposals from the European Council for our post-Brexit relationship with the EU is that we will continue in the common fishery policies indefinitely, and there will be rules and regulations about access of movement of people. And you can all know what that means. That means continued open borders as much as possible. So my belief is they will either try to water down Brexit to the extent where you don't really actually leave and you have some kind of Norway or Switzerland option whereby we still pay them money, still obey lots of their laws and still have open borders and we won't really leave, or they'll reverse it altogether. And that is a danger because they've delayed this whole process exactly as I predicted they would up until the next general election. And of course at that point it could all be reversed. Because you have Mrs. May who never wants to leave anyway. I mean, it's ludicrous to have somebody in charge of this process who in the referendum campaign was carrying around a little poster saying, "I'm in." And then she's supposed to do the most important and fundamental thing in our history in the last 45 years, and take us out of the European Union. Why would you give a job like that to somebody like that? But she's got it. We don't have a patriotic House of Commons. We don't have a patriotic House of Lords, and they will fight a ditch-by-ditch campaign to try and stop that happening. And that is why UKIP is still needed, and why we have to fight and build us up as an electoral force. But that's not the only reason. We need a party that is actually going to stand up for British people and the British national interest. And what have we got? We've got the Conservative Party, which is the party of international big business and international capitalism and crony capitalism. And we've got Labour, which is the party of international socialism. None of them operate on the basis of what's good for Britain and the British people. That isn't their remit. But that's what UKIP has to be about. We have to be talking about proper exit from the EU. We have to be talking about the big issues like immigration, unlimited, uncontrolled immigration, which we still have, and which is going to go on ad infinitum as far as we can tell, which is very damaging to this country. And we have to also be talking about jobs, the economy, the health service, housing, which is a major issue. And I want to see our spokesman develop policies on those. And we've done very well in the past, actually, with our policies on those subjects, but we have to develop them. Now, we're seeing something, I think, quite dangerous in British politics at the moment. Because we've got the Conservative Party, which doesn't really want to leave the EU, is pretty left-wing, actually, anyway. It's the party of the appeasers. It's the party of international business. So long as they're getting paid, then they're not too bothered what happens to the rest of us. But we've got Labour, which is now entering quite a dangerous place, with their candidates being deselected and replaced by momentum candidates. In the borough where I live, in London Borough of Newham, we had a Labour mayor. And to be fair to him, he did his best to keep the council tax down, which is pretty good as far as I'm concerned. He was doing a good job from his point of view. Obviously, I didn't vote for him. And he's now been replaced by a momentum candidate. And what do they stand for? Well, why do you think that there is so much anti-Semitism in the Labour Party today? And I was told, I got rung this morning by our press officer who said to me that there is an anti-Semitic poster gone up in London which Jeremy Corbyn has said, well, why not? It's just free speech. But this is something reminiscent of pre-war Germany, and it's on display in the East End of London, where I come from. Why is that happening? Why has the Labour Party become anti-Semitic? And of course, this is not an isolated incident. You're all aware of the other anti-Semitic incidents that have gone on. It's because they are increasingly relying on a vote base, which is itself anti-Semitic. And this is followers of the Mohammedan cult, the cult of Islam. These people are anti-Semitic. It's endemic. Not all of them. I'm not saying they all are. The ideology is anti-Semitic. It's endemic in that religion, and that is why it is more important for Labour to get those votes than to actually worry about the dangerous tiger that they are starting to ride. In fact, they're pretty much on its back. UKIP has to stand up and talk about those things, and I will, because I have a responsibility to say things that other people are too frightened to say, because I'm an old geezer now. I could retire in a year's time if I wanted to. I don't need another job. I don't have to go and seek employment from people who can look me up on the internet and say, oh, we can't employ him. Look what he's too dangerous. He might upset somebody. I don't have to worry about that. So I have a responsibility, I believe, in my position to speak up and say the kind of things that ordinary people think and in many cases are too frightened to say. And I will do that. Not because I'm brave, because I'm not, but because I have had a privileged life. I haven't had to fight a war like my father's generation. I've had a job, I've got a better job and a better job until I've ended up as this job, leader of UKIP. I did say to Henry Bolton, when Henry Bolton took over the job as leader, I said, Henry, you do realise you've just taken on the most difficult job in British politics. Little did I realise that 6 months later I'd be doing it, and that he would have made it infinitely harder for anybody to do. But there we are. I feel, as I said, I've got a responsibility to talk out on those things, and I will. And I want you to have the confidence to go out, find candidates, rebuild UKIP. I know it's difficult, but I have found as I've been going around the country, I was in Gloucester a few days ago, morale is lifting in the party. People feel that there is a new purpose. People are returning to the fight. And I was overwhelmed, really, by the reaction that I got in Gloucester, because I went along, 150 people, they were all cheering, they're all ready for action, they all want to get going again. And I want to see that all around the country. Indeed, I am getting that feedback from around the country. We've got to get back into the fight. One of the policies I want us to adopt, if I remain as permanent leader, of course, is proportional representation, some system of proportional representation. It is an absolute scandal that in 2015 we got more votes than the Scottish Nationalist Party, more votes than the Liberal Democrats. They got, I think, was it 62 MPs and we got 1. So how can that be fair? Not meant to be fair. It's meant to keep us out. Our enemies and our opponents are now crowing and exulting because they think we're done for and that we're going to go bankrupt and we're finished. And in Sadiq Khan, the esteemed London mayor, was asked in the Assembly last week, I think it was Peter Whittle or David Curtin, I'm not quite sure which one, asked them if they would be celebrating Independence Day this year on the 23rd of June. And Sadiq Khan said, no, but I'll be celebrating the abolition of UKIP when it happens, or words to that effect. Well, those words are going to come back to haunt him because UKIP isn't going to be abolished. We've already passed the first hurdle. We're already able now to pay our bills. We're going forward and we're going to get stronger. And I'm not going to make you stronger. I'm not going to make UKIP stronger. I'm going to help you and the activists and the members and the new members that come on to do that. That's all I can do, and I'll do my level best. I'm going off to Birmingham this afternoon. I've been invited to speak at the Justice for 21 campaign for the pub bombings of 1974, and from that meeting I'm going on to have another private meeting with representatives of the Veterans Against Extremism and the football lads, because these are people who can get out, and did in London, 30,000 people at a demonstration, a perfectly peaceful demonstration where they said, we're not happy with what's going on, we want things to change. Well, my message to them is, you're absolutely right, you've done a fantastic job so far, but you must organise politically. You have a choice. Set up your own political party or join another political party, and I'd like you to come and join us, because you can get out 1 million people on the streets. Government and politicians couldn't care less because it doesn't affect them. Look what we did when we took votes away from them, when we got the referendum and we won the referendum. We were only able to do that because of being an electoral threat. We have to become an electoral threat once again. And I have no illusions about how much hard work that is going to be to achieve that. But I'm prepared to try and help you do that. But you're going to have to be ones that step forward and do it. People like you up and down the country. And I'll finish on the same note that I started on. The reason that I did this in the first place and stepped up was to preserve the party, to stop the party from going under, and for the members. It is for the members and the activists, because you're the people that matter. It isn't the MEPs. It isn't the people with titles. It isn't the people who suffer from egomania, and we've got a few of those. It's about you. It's about the ordinary members and the activists. That's why I'm doing it. I want, when I do eventually retire, which I hope won't be that too far off, I can actually go down to the ballot box and vote for the UK Independence Party. Because sure as hell, I won't be voting Labour, Tory, Lib Dem or anything else. So at least do that for me. Okay, enable me to vote for you.
You didn't frankly have the balls to put country before party.